Hi, everybody. This is Arkady Frekhtman, and welcome to Last Week Tonight Live, where we answer your questions and we talk about your comments. So it is, court is in session. Okay, let's do it. So I see we have some comments already. That's awesome. Wow. It's cool that people are so interested in this civil justice that we're disseminating. Let's see. Mr. Hassan says, "Hello, dear attorney. Is the police report is important to the lawyer for a car crash?" I mean, yeah, the police report is important because the police report is going to tell you how the accident happened, like what happened, right? And it's going to tell you the parties. So it's more like it's not so important as to, like, let's say, what it says, right? But it's more important that the information is there because you need the information such as, who is the defendant, right? Who are you going to sue? There's a lot of cars, so how do you know who to sue? So you need the police report because you want to know, okay, that's the defendant, the truck driver, like Joe Smith, the trucking company, ABC Trucking, and that's who you're going to sue. Otherwise, you just don't know who to go after. So sometimes the police officer will get things wrong, right? Because let's say, for example, there was a pedestrian knockdown, right? A pedestrian's in a crosswalk, a car hits the pedestrian in the crosswalk. Pedestrian is so hurt, he or she is taken to the hospital. Now, the driver of the car is going to say, oh, he was running or he was on his cell phone, he was outside the crosswalk. The police officer gets there after the crash is over. The police officer is just going to write down what the driver said. But that doesn't mean that's what happened. So you can't rely on that. You have to do your own independent investigation. You have to go canvass the area, get witnesses, and then also a lot of the times whatever's written in the police report may not even be admissible because, like I said, they're not witnesses to the actual accident. They're just after the fact reporters, kind of like a reporter, right? They're after the fact, almost like a secretary. They get there after the fact. Whatever you tell the police officer, that's what he's going to write down. So if you say, "Hey, a pink elephant fell from the sky and hit me," the police officer, "Okay." If he says a pink elephant fell from the sky and hit him, so it's like, so you can't really go to give it too much credence, the police reports. So then he says, my second question is about how the satellite video and picture showing the scene of the crash, and do you request that as proof? Yeah, I mean, videos and pictures are always good. If you have that, that's good. I mean, sometimes it can be bad. It depends. We often have clients say, "Hey, this is what happened," then we get the video, and it's not what happened. So videos, be careful what you wish for. You might think a video is going to help you, but sometimes a video doesn't help you. It helps the defense. So And then he says, my third question is about immigration or refugee people who are living illegal in the United States get the same verdicts as a U.S. citizen. Yeah, you're entitled to the same verdict. You're entitled to, because the verdict is supposed to be what was taken away from you, right? All the harms and losses. So the value isn't based on the type of person you are, right? Whether you're here legally or whether you're here illegally. Now, somebody might be here legally, might be born here. Does that mean they're entitled to more money? Like they're entitled to $1 million, right? But if you're here illegally, as long as as long as you came here and you're working, you're doing something, you want to be like an upstanding citizen. You don't want to be like, somebody who's out there hurting people. But as long as you're an upstanding member of society, you're entitled to the same value because it's not about the person. It's about what was taken away, what was lost. Like, I'll give you an example. Actually, I did a video about this. There was a trial, and it was actually a soft tissue case, and the lawyer won $3 million. The verdict was like 2.2 million. I actually know this lawyer. We're friendly. We went to the same retreat in Montana. We did a trial by human, and we worked together. And he's only tried like 4 cases in his whole life. I think this was his 4th case, and he got 2.2 million. And with the interest and everything, it's going to be 3 million. And this is a case completely soft tissue, right? There's no surgery, there's no injections, there's no recommendation for surgery. Okay. And every time the doctor even recommended an injection, the client said, I'm not going to do it. He just refused to do it. But anyway, he got like almost, it's going to be $3 million he can collect. Now, how did he do it? In jury selection, one of the ways in jury selection, he said, well, what if like Bill Gates is in a museum and Bill Gates knocks over this precious vase, as opposed to someone else knocks over the vase, like say a homeless guy knocks over the vase. Is it, what do you think about that? And then the jurors were all talking. Now the jurors are talking to him, which is good, but the jurors were also talking to each other, right? He had he had like 20 jurors in there. So they're all talking to each other. So now he's forming the group. He's getting the jurors comfortable, talking to each other. And he picked this really strong jury. And the theme that came out of that was, they said, look, the point is that it doesn't matter, right? It's the value of the vase. It doesn't matter who knocked it over. So it's kind of like the same thing. But yeah, so I think you should be fine. I mean, like immigrants could definitely get a lot of the same benefits. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. We have Truth Seeker. Have you ever had to represent anyone that suffered a heart condition after a work injury? Claimant never had a heart condition, but after the accident, they became symptomatic with a very low heart rate, like brachycardia. How would you defend that? Or would brachycardia not be something you would consider an injury? No, I mean, yeah, you could, as long as you have the medical evidence. So the doctor has to say that the work injury, let's say the fall from a ladder or whatever the work injury was, that it caused the heart condition, that the person's heart was healthy before, or he had no heart issues. A lot of the times people just don't have any issues, right? No symptoms. So there's no reason to go to the doctor. Like this case where he won $3 million that I was just talking about. The guy was healthy before. He was a fitness guy. He would have like 10% body fat. He would work out. He had a lot of muscles. He had no reason to go to the doctor. So they got his, medical history for 10 years. The only thing they had was like, he went for a checkup once in a while. The doctor took the stethoscope and listened to him. Said, "Oh, you're healthy. You're good. Get out of here." That's it. That was it. So that was good. So it's the same thing. If you had no history of a heart, and now you have the heart, and the heart issue is caused by the accident, as long as the doctor gives you that, you could recover for it. Absolutely. Why not? Just like anything. But you have to have the medical evidence. So that's the key. Okay. And the final question is, what would something like brachycardia, if caused by the work or accident, be worth? Or how would you see this in a settlement amount? Just a guess. Thanks. You're the best. Oh, thank you. I mean, it's hard for me to say if it's bradycardia or brachycardia. I'd have to like do a little bit. I could do a little research for you. I could check in the jury verdict reporter, and I could see what those cases are worth. I actually don't know. I mean, I think I have had some cases with heart injuries, but the one that I'm thinking of, the one that just comes to mind, was a medical malpractice case where I believe somebody went to a doctor. The doctor said, "You're like okay," basically, the cardiologist. And then he went and he shoveled snow and he had this massive heart attack. And then his ejection fraction went from like 80%, which is good, to like 30%. And he was permanently, his heart muscle permanently got weaker. And we sued it was against the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation, which, runs these hospitals. And I think we settled it for like about that one. I think we settled for, this was a long time ago. This was like, when I was a baby lawyer, this was like 15 years ago. But I think even back then we settled it for like maybe 500 to 600, maybe 550, something like that, like over 500,000. So, probably it could be worth more if it's a permanent, heart is everything, right? If your heart's not working, you're not alive. So yeah, I mean, the only thing you could say more important, I guess it's debatable, right? Whether it's the brain or the heart, what's more important? But I mean, the heart, you don't want your heart to get injured. Okay, Nikemia says, "Hello, attorney. Have you made a video of the lawsuit process? I'm a year in and no demand has been sent to the defense. My attorney took the defendant's deposition 2 months ago. No dispute about fault." Okay. So yeah, I mean, I did. I made a few videos about the lawsuit process. If you're a year in and your attorney took the defendant's deposition, that's good. So most likely, I don't know what kind of case it is, but let's say if it's like a car crash case, if your attorney already took the deposition of the defendant, then you could probably certify it as trial ready. If it's in New York, I would say in another maybe maybe a year, roughly, in most counties, like in Brooklyn, Bronx. Well, Bronx, no, Bronx might be slower, sorry. But Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, about a year, maybe a year and like 3 months, a year and 6 months from the filing of the note of issue. That's when you certify it as trial ready. That's when you start to get your trial date, if you have to go all the way. Now, at any point, you could always settle the case. You could always try to settle, right, at any point. But that's just if you're going to go all the way to trial. And I think she also says, how can the insurance set aside the reserves if no demand is sent? Oh, I see. If no demand is sent. Well, if no demand is sent, they kind of set the reserves based on, their case. The way it works is when you file a lawsuit, the insurance company evaluates the case and they send reports. Now, the lawyer defending the case, right? The partner and the associate will send reports to the adjuster. They usually do that every few months, and they give them updates about the case. Like when you testify at a deposition, they'll send a report and they'll say, this client makes a good appearance, they're dressed appropriately, or they'll say, hey, this client doesn't make a good appearance, he's argumentative, or he has a tattoo. They're really specific. We think a jury would like him, or we think a jury will not like her. So they send these reports, and then they talk about, and the report includes everything, right? They could assess the plaintiff's attorney. They could say, this attorney handling this case has never done a trial. We looked at his trial history for the last 5 years. They've never even picked a jury, so let's give them much less money, because if they were somebody who actually picks juries and gets verdicts, we'd have to give them like $3 million. But because they're somebody who's never been to court, how about we just give them 300,000? So they're really good. Insurance companies are smart. They're like billion-dollar enterprises. They know what they're doing. But that's how they assess it. But it's better to send like I've talked about before, the settlement opportunity letter, because that lets you evaluate the case, what you think the case is worth, and then work with focus groups, which are like juries, right? Because it's just a group of people that'll tell you the problems with the case, what they think the case is worth. Then you send that and you say, look, your policy is $1 million, pay the $1 million. If you're not going to pay the $1 million, that's fine, but be forewarned, when I go to the court and I'm talking to the jury, it's not going to be $1 million anymore, it's going to be $3 million, and then that gets them to be upset, and that gets them to pay. She says it's a car accident with a 5-level spine fusion. Oh my God, 5-level. That should be, as long as there's enough insurance, you should find out how much insurance there is. And it's so important to find out the primary insurance as well as the excess or umbrella, because with a 5-level fusion, like the case I did in the Bronx was about I don't know if it was 5, it might have been less than 5. It was C3 and I think down to C8. Oh yeah, I guess it's about 5. That was a $3.5 million settlement during the trial. And that was an aggravation because he had a fusion in that same area before. So it was an aggravation, but still $3.5 million after opening statements. So you could probably get something like that, I would say, also from 3 to 3+ million. Oh, she says 6 million UIM. Okay, so that's good. That's a good case. Yeah, if it's 6 million, it could be worth the full 6 million. I would really build that up. If you need a consultation, just text me 347-566-9595. I'd be happy to chat with you and just give you some free advice. It's confidential, and I'm happy to do that. I've been doing it. Like last week, I talked to a few people. This week, I talked to a few people. I'm happy to do that. And then Leonardo says, hello, hello. Hi, how are you? Leonardo's here. That's awesome. Great to see you. Francisco says, my MMI for TBI was 3% impairment rating. What's my case worth? Well, it doesn't really work like that. I'd have to really speak to you and find out, like, a little bit about you, how the traumatic brain injury happened, right? What's the liability? And also what your damages are, not just your impairment rating, but how your life was affected. Like, for example, what do you love to do? What are your passions? Do you love the beach? Do you like soccer? Do you like playing really get to know you? Who's important in your life? Are you married, or do you have kids? Who are your friends? And then like once I get a sense of what the accident or the traumatic brain injury did to your life, then I could give you a better sense of what it could be worth. But I never see, that's what the defense does. The defense is all about, oh, it's only 3%, so it's worth nothing. Or your medical bills are only 30,000, so let's triple it by 3. If your medical bills are 30,000, it's worth 90,000. That's all it's worth. It's not worth anything more. The best lawyers, what they do is they waive the medical bills, meaning they don't even want to claim them, because if they claim the medical bills become a low anchor. And now they can never get more than, like, say, 90,000, right? Or even if you get 5x the medical bills, okay, 30 times 5, 150. That's what happened in that case with the 3 million that I was just talking about too. Because what happened was he had medical bills of 37,000. He waived them. If he didn't waive them, the jurors would have said, oh, you have 37,000 in medical bills? Okay, how about we triple it? So let's give you 40 times 3, 120. But then he would have gotten 120. He got 3 million, for a soft tissue no surgery, no injections, and no recommendation, meaning there is not even a need for surgery, right? The doctor didn't even say you need it. So that's amazing. And that was in Colorado. He did that. And, it's a conservative state. It's not even in New York. In the Bronx, okay, if you did it in the Bronx, that's hard. But Colorado, that's really hard. So props to him. He did a great job. Okay, let's see what other questions we have here. So yeah, Francisco, I just can't really tell you, but feel free to text me 347-566-9595. I'm happy to help. TBI, usually I think, any kind of TBI, I think is worth like millions because it's your brain, right? It's traumatic brain damage. It's usually permanent. It doesn't go away. So it's usually worth a lot. But, I'd have to know a little bit more. Okay, and then let's go to the next question. Let's see what questions we have here. Bagged says, yo, I finally get to see you live. Let's go. All right. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for being here. That's so cool. And Praj says, hello, I'm currently in workers' comp case, and I recently had an MRI. I found out I have a herniated disc in my cervical spine and a herniated disc in my T-spine and another bulge in my T-spine, and I have nerve damage. How much do you think that's worth? I got hurt at work, currently projecting to get injection. So hurt at work, is it a workers' comp? Now, if it's a straight workers' comp case, that just means you got hurt at work, right? But then you're going through the administrative workers' comp system. So the only thing you can get there is your lost wages, your medical bills paid. Now, the medical bills don't go to you, right? They go to other people like doctors for treating you. And then the third thing you could do is you could get a settlement, which is known as a Section 32 settlement in New York. Now, I don't do straight workers' comp. I only do the third-party negligence lawsuits, personal injury lawsuits. I couldn't tell you what a workers' comp case is worth, but generally they're worth much, much less than personal injury. And usually the lawyers that do workers' comp do volumes. They get like a lot of cases, but yeah, so I couldn't really tell you if it's a straight comp. Okay, and then Deepak says, hello, sir attorney. I am an Uber driver in New York City. I was waiting for a rider, full stop, rear-ended my car with NYPD, no sirens. I did surgery, ACDF on my neck, 4 years of therapy, 4 injections on my neck and lower back. Yeah, I mean, that's summary judgment denied. Appeals court also denied. I don't know why it would be denied if you're stopped. You got rear-ended. But I mean, it sounds like a good case. Yeah, I mean, a great case. If you have an ACDF, it depends on, you have to, I mean, of course, it depends on not just the ACDF, but it also depends on the overall damage to you as an individual, right? Like not just you, but also like if you're married, if you have kids, if you have friends, family, like your whole life, right? Basically, you have to tell the story of your life, what's important to you. But I mean, just generally speaking from precedents, I would say a case like that could be worth into the millions easily because you're talking about an anterior cervical discectomy and fusion. So they're taking out a disc, they're putting in allograft usually from the hip and an artificial disc, and they're hoping that that bone is going to heal or unify. It's called a union, but sometimes you get non-union. Sometimes the bone doesn't bridge or unify, right? And then you have to do another surgery. So that's a real serious surgery. That's a life-changing forever injury. That's not a joke. That's a serious spine surgery. So yeah, that's worth a lot. I mean, I couldn't tell you. If you want to know exactly, just text me 347-566-9595. I'm happy to jump on a call. When people text me, just text me your name, your facts, meaning just like a sentence, like, I got hit by a car, rear-ended, and your injuries, like I have an ACDF, right? And then I'll just, text you back. We could pick a time and we'll chat. And then if you text me your full name and it's in New York, I could look it up in the court's computer. There's public filings. There's the New York State Civil Electronic Filing, known as NYCIF, and there's also e-law. So I'll look it up. It just takes a minute for me. I'll just quickly scan it, and then I could give you some more information. If you have a lawyer and your lawyer's not telling you, really your lawyer should be telling you. You're paying them. They should be telling you. But look, if they're really not, and you need a consultation, I'll find the time. I'll try to help. I'm trying to help as many people as I can. But yeah, I mean, it's that's a great case. That's a strong case. Okay. And then Huracan 20 says, I was in a 5-car accident, a truck in front of me and an SUV stopped suddenly. Then I stopped and a semi-truck and another truck both crashed and pushed me forward against the two in front of me. I have a bulging disc in my neck and back with an MRI, physical therapy and chiro for 4 months, and epidurals on the neck and back. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, that's that's a serious case. Now, the good thing, or I mean, the good thing for the value of the case is if it's a semi truck and another truck crashed and they pushed you into those other cars that were in front of you. So the cars that were like stopped in front of you, they didn't do anything wrong, right? It's like a domino effect. So, but it's really the truck and the semi truck. So they should have enough coverage because a semi truck should have at least a million with maybe like 3-4 million excess, and then you have another truck there. So it sounds like you have enough coverage. So just see what you end up doing with your with all your treatment. If you end up needing any kind of injection, surgery, it could definitely be a high value case. But a lot of it would also depend on where it is, what city you're in, and who's handling it, things like that. But it sounds like it could be a big case. Okay. Let's see what other questions we have. Bagged Boys says, IV or I've had therapy, cortisone injection in my neck, and now the doctor is recommending ACDF surgery on my herniated disc for a rear end accident, $1 million insurance policy worth with surgery or without. Yeah, so I mean, if it's a clear liability, a rear end is usually a clear liability. You can get summary judgment, or you could win because you're not at fault for somebody else rear-ending you. 1 million, I would find out if there's excess or umbrella, because a lot of the times when you have 1 million, that's the primary. There could be excess or umbrella beyond that, because if you end up having the ACDF, it's worth more than 1 million. It could be worth 3 or 2 or 3 or 4. It could be worth much more. Now, if you don't have the surgery, the fact that you need the ACDF, I think that's still worth a substantial amount. That might be worth a little less. That might be worth, let's say, 500, or it's hard to say exactly without reviewing the file, but that still has a lot of value because you would say, look, I'm not going to do the ACDF now, but I need it. The doctor says I need it. He's going to come to court. He's going to testify that I need it. And, depending on my age, let's say, I don't know your age, but let's say you're, 30. Well, okay, you don't need it now, but you're going to need it when you're 50 or when you're 60. So, and then you can't come back, right? Once the case is settled, it's done. You can't come back when you're 60 and say, I want more money. So you have to get paid for it now for your whole life, So that's why it could be worth a lot, even if you don't do the surgery. Yeah. There was actually I did a video about this. It was funny. This week I was reading this post by another lawyer, and he was saying, what's this case worth? It's a C5, C6 fusion. And I thought, this is almost like what I do my lives. Like people say, what's this worth? But that's all he said. He didn't say anything else. And then this other lawyer saying, oh yeah, C5, C6 fusion. I usually ask for 750 on those and I get 500. I'm like, oh my God. I'm just like, I can't believe these are like professionals, lawyers saying this. I was like, what about, don't you want to go to your client's house? Don't you want to find out how they live, find out about their biography, who they were, their childhood, how they grew up, what's important to them? They work a certain job, right? Why do they choose that profession? Why is that profession interesting for them? How did they meet their spouse? You got to know their story. Then you could tell their story to a jury. Then the jury has empathy for them or feelings for them. And that's where the value comes in, right? Because jurors don't understand C5. C is a letter, ABC. 5 is a number. They don't know what this is. They're just people from the street, people you see on the street when you walk. You think they know what C5, C6 is? No. So what you got to tell them is you have to give them, and there's actually a jury consultant and another lawyer, and they wrote a book about this, and there's certain things called flashpoints, and flashpoints are things that you would have empathy with. And there are things like shame and humiliation. Nobody wants to be, ashamed or humiliated, especially in public, right? But if you're injured, maybe you try to pick something up, like you go shopping, you pick up, some milk, and you can't hold it because you have a C5 fusion and the pain is radiating to your arm. You drop the milk, now the milk is splattered all over the floor. You feel ashamed. Or things like inability to protect your children or your loved ones. Things like, involuntary immobilization, meaning you're immobilized. You want to move, but you can't move because you're involuntarily immobilized, or involuntary loneliness. So those are the kind of themes you want to explore with your client. But in order to get there, what you have to do is interview your client, but also interview their circle of friends, right? Kind of like if you're making a movie about your client's life, your client is the star of the movie. who's important to them, their husband, their wife, their sister, their brother, their friends, their coworkers, and tell the story, who they were before this happened, who they are now. And each witness might tell a story about one of those flashpoints, right? Either inability to protect my children, or involuntary loneliness, or shame, humiliation, or something else, right? Some people have stories. Like, I like to tell stories of people overcoming obstacles. Some of my clients, they've been in prison before, but they got out of prison, they rehabilitated themselves, and now they're trying to live a clean life. And then they get hit by a truck, right? Now they have to overcome this obstacle of their health. So overcoming obstacles, things like that. And each witness tells a story of like 5 to 10 minutes, like one story, each witness. And these are independent people, right? No skin in the game. So now the defendant can't say, this guy is trying to play the lawsuit lottery, this guy's a fraudster. Oh yeah, if he's a fraudster, where did he get 10 people who are independent, that have no skin in the game, coming here to court and telling you all this information, right? So it's so powerful. So it was just like, I just an aside, I actually did a video about that too. I'll post that maybe next week or the week after. But I just thought it was like crazy. People are throwing out numbers, but they don't even know anything about the case. Like, they just, all they know is C5, C6. And actually in that case, there was a lot of insurance. So with that much insurance, there was like, I think 5 million in insurance. So I don't know where this guy gets off saying he asks for 750. If he's asking for 750 on a 5 million policy with a fusion, basically he's telling the insurance company that they could have 4.25 million as a gift right from the beginning, right? Because he's not going after the policy. He's just giving it to them. He's saying, insurance, take 4.25 million as a gift and leave me with this 750. And then, I'm not even going to get the 750. Now drag me down further. Maybe it'll be 5, maybe it'll be 3, maybe it'll be 200. That's all I'm going to get for you. So I don't even understand how these attorneys are doing that. It's like mind blowing. Okay, let's go to the next question. Let's see. So we did the one about the ACDF for the herniated disc with the 1 million. Yeah, so that was the bag boy. So yeah, I would say definitely find out if there's excess and umbrella. That could be much, much bigger. Leonardo says, can lawyers pick former clients as jurors? No, probably that would be like a conflict of interest. I mean, if you forgot, if you don't know who they are, if you had a client like 20 years ago, and no one's going to get a Rolodex and check your records and open the phone book. Or have you ever, but if you know who they are, they know who you are. You're not supposed to. Okay. And then Deepak says, discovery is all done. How long will it take to get to a jury? I mean, if discovery is all done and you're on the trial calendar, it just depends where you are. Like I was saying before, in most places, once you file the note, it takes about a year. But in the Bronx, it takes a little longer. But I think they're fixing the Bronx, though. They have some new administrative judge, and they're trying to speed things up. It was actually funny. I was in the CLE, and there were like these Bronx judges there, and all the famous, Bronx people. And they were talking about the Bronx and why it's so slow. And the reason was like just mind blowing. I mean, I'll tell you the reason. The reason was because they don't have any reporters. The people that type the transcripts of trial, because all the reporters are in the criminal court. The criminal court is like across the street. It's a brand new building. They have a lot of reporters. But that entire civil building, it's across the street from Yankee Stadium, the Bronx courthouse, they only have like 2 or 3 reporters. So they could only have like 2 or 3 trials at a time. And they're saying that no people want to be reporters anymore. I guess it's not a profession that people want to go into. So they just can't do trials because they don't have the reporters, the stenographers to type up the trials. I guess they could maybe pass a new law to like videotape the trial or something and have that. Because, I mean, otherwise what? You're just going to stop justice because you can't get reporters? It's silly, but the Bronx is just super slow. Okay, so Kenzie says, such a good lawyer. We'll call you tomorrow with my case. Yeah, sure. Just feel free. Text me, call me. I'm happy to set something up. Jeff says, in my case, both the driver and I were injured when my lawyer submits the stower's demands to the defendant's lawyer. Does that document split up amount between the two of us? I'm not familiar with the stower's demand. We don't have that in New York. I'm not sure what that, I mean, I think I've heard that term, but I'm not familiar with it. But no, you shouldn't have to split it up because, usually the insurance, as long as there's enough insurance, you can get, a certain amount for each person, as long as there's enough insurance. Like the only time where it could be an issue is if there just isn't enough insurance. Then you have to split whatever there is among the two people, and usually the person that's more injured will get more. But I think I did a video about that recently, like in the last few weeks. Somebody else asked me that question. I believe it was posted where like with two people are in a car, and how much does each one get or something like that. I mean, I'm pretty sure I did that about that recently. Okay, and then Kenzie says, "Hi, Arkady. I had a rear-ended in Queens with an FDNY truck. Had both knee arthroscopy, shoulder arthroscopy, percutaneous discectomy, and a spinal cord stimulator surgery. Waiting on you to come on board." So rear-ended in Queens with an FDNY truck. So that's a good case because fire department trucks are going to have unlimited insurance, meaning it could even be hundreds of millions, right? There's no cap, there's no ceiling. So that's good. And then it's serious arthroscopies, perc discs, spinal cord stimulator. Spinal cord stimulator is very serious. That's very serious. Yeah, I mean, just text me. I'm happy to help. I could just chat with you. If you're happy with your lawyer, I could just chat with you and give you some advice. If you needed my help, I could, evaluate it to see if it makes sense to come on board. Sometimes I can come on board, especially if it's early, but sometimes like it's just too late. Like somebody called me this week, but I think they were already have a trial date, like, and it's coming up like in April. I can't really, at that point, somebody's been handling it for like 7 years and they have a trial date in a month. I can't come on board that late. I mean, it just wouldn't make sense. So yeah, but if it's still early, yeah, absolutely. Just text me 347-566-9595. And then Ben says, "Hi, Arkady. How difficult is it to sue New York City?" So difficult to sue New York City? I mean, I guess to sue New York City, yeah, it's not that difficult. I mean, it's just like suing anyone. You just file a lawsuit. The only issue with New York City is when you're negotiating the case, they don't always offer you like fair value. And when you're prosecuting the case, like for example, I'm suing New York City, right? And I want to get certain documents, and I serve them a request for documents. If it was a private defendant, they would give me the documents, or they would object. I'd make a motion, then they would give me the documents. With the city, they just don't give you anything. They have to make a motion. And then even after you make a motion, the judge says, "You know what? Here's an order. You have to give them the documents." They ignore that order. And you got to make another motion, say strike their answer, meaning, dismiss the case against them because they're ignoring the court order. But then they ignore that order. And then you get a third order. And all this takes time. This takes like, a year and a half. Then finally they'll give you the documents after, so you just have to be persistent and keep fighting with them. So it's just, yeah. Okay, and then Payne says, "What is the role of a settlement coordinator in a law firm, and what is the strategy behind when a lawyer asks you, the plaintiff, how much you are looking for, money-wise?" Well, it's probably, I would say usually the reason they do that is because they want to, um, you mean, I'm not sure what you mean, which lawyer, how much you're looking for. I think you mean when the defense lawyer asks you how much you're looking for in a deposition. I don't know if they really are supposed to do that, but if they're asking you that, they might want you to say something high, like, "Oh, I'm looking for 5 million," and then they want to use that against you at trial to make you seem like you're trying to play the lawsuit lottery. That might be what they're doing. But a settlement coordinator in a law firm, in a plaintiff's law firm, is usually just somebody who, takes care of the settlement, basically sends out the documents, like the releases. And then remember, when you get the settlement, like say I settle a case for $1 million, I get the $1 million. You can't always just take it and give it to the plaintiff, right? You might have liens. Now you have to call the lien holders. There could be funding companies. There could be medical doctors who have liens. There could be Medicare liens, Medicaid liens. So probably the settlement coordinator would deal with all those and get all those paid and get letters from each one extinguishing the lien, like lien discharges, because you want to have everything documented. If you don't have a lien discharge and all of a sudden you disperse the money to the client's going to take the money, $1 million, spend it. And now, like the company's going to come after you and say, "Hey, where's my money?" The doctor or Medicare or Medicaid, whoever, and you have to, so that's probably a settlement coordinator. They coordinate all that. So yeah, that's. But let's see. And then Kenzie says, "With some injections in my back." Oh, that was the one we talked about, spinal. I think the biggest injury there is the spinal stimulator, probably, and the percutaneous discectomy. That's pretty serious. And then Ben says, "Arkady, your website claims 900 million for your clients. Is that accurate?" Yeah, I mean, I believe so because we've been around since like 1999, so we've been around quite a while. So if you add everything up, and we also do a lot of mass torts. So if you count like all the mass torts, those are sometimes settled for like one case could be 200 million. So we're involved in a lot of those too. Well, not only like I can't say it's only like me, right? Little old me. It's probably me together with my other lawyers, like my partners. One of the lawyers, when I first started, actually had a verdict for like 69 million all by himself. That was a huge one. But when you get those kind of things, you don't get the money because the verdict is for 69 million. They appeal, and then I think he only collected like 4 million, but still good. But it wasn't 69. But the jury gave 69 in that trial. Okay, and then Oakley says, "Thank you so much for all your information. It has truly helped me through my semi-accident lawsuit. We just settled for the policy limit." Oh, awesome. That's great. Congratulations. That's what it's all about. It's all about helping serious injury victims and families, helping people get justice. That's what I love to hear. That's why I do what I do. That's what it's all about. Well, congratulations. I hope you feel better too. Even though you settled and you got the policy limit, hopefully it was high, like a million or many million, but the most important thing is your health. So you want to make sure that you fully recover. And Nikimia says, "Thank you for all you do each week. I can't understand why attorneys don't keep clients informed." Yeah, I mean, attorneys really should keep clients more informed. I guess maybe they're busy, but I mean, busy. I mean, I'm busy too, right? But you just have to make the time. It's like anything, right? Why don't people go to the gym? Why don't people work out? Well, because people don't want to wake up at 5 in the morning, right? Or when it's snowing and go to the gym and then lift, heavy weights or run on the treadmill. But it's good for you, right? If you do that, you live to be 90. If you sit on the couch and eat potato chips all day, maybe you'll die of a heart attack, when you're 45. You don't want that. But like it's hard, but you have to do the hard things. That's what it's about. I like this guy, David. I don't know if any of you guys know about David Goggins. He's like this Marine. He wrote this book. I think he wrote Can't Hurt Me. I read that book. I really like that book. See, I like that kind of thing. And he was on a podcast, I think, with Andrew Huberman, and he was talking about you have to do the hard things because the more you do the hard things, the more and it's good for you too because it's like almost like micro commitments, right? If you make a commitment to yourself and then you hold that commitment, meaning you don't break it, like you make a New Year's resolution, you're going to eat well, you're going to go to the gym, and then you make that commitment, you hold that commitment to yourself. Now you become more confident. Now you become a better version of yourself. So it's all about that. That's a good way to live. And then Gaytree says, "Good evening, sir. Hi, how are you?" That's one of the people that actually texted me, and I spoke with her a few times. She's a very nice lady. Yeah, how are you? Good evening. Yeah, feel free to text me back. Let's schedule another call if you need my help. I'm happy to chat with you. Um, and then Vic says, "Hello, awesome Arkady. Can you add the article of particulars month away from trial?" Oh, maybe you mean the bill of particulars? You could try to supplement. You can't really, I mean, sometimes they won't allow it. It depends on what it is. If it's a small supplementation, they usually allow it. Now, if it's something new, they could say, well, we didn't know about this. This is a new injury. So now we get another deposition and we get another IME, meaning another defense medical examination as to this new issue. And then they could knock you off the trial calendar and then you have to wait longer for a new trial. So you have to be careful about that. In some situations you can, but in some you can't. And then AJ says, "Hi, I was rear-ended by a young man driving his father's car. How soon should my attorney file suit? Is this if the son sued separately from the father? I have a herniated disc and bulges in my neck." Okay, so if you're rear-ended by a young man driving his father's car, so what I would say is that you have to sue both, right? Because the owner of the car is responsible, that's the father, and the driver of the car is responsible, known as the operator. It's like owner operator. That's what they call it. That's what lawyers call it, owner operator. So the owner is the owner of the car, and the operator is the guy who's driving. So you sue both of them. How soon should he file suit? I would say, as soon as he knows what your injuries are. If you're done with your medical care, if they know, hey, you have a bulging disc and a herniated disc, he could try to settle. If they don't pay you what you want or what's fair, file a lawsuit and find out how much insurance they have. If it's in New York, you could just, you could just send a letter. I think there's insurance law 4520F. I don't know if I'm getting, I think it's 4520F. I might be wrong, but they have to tell you what the insurance limits are. And now when you file a lawsuit, they have to tell you the primary and the excess or umbrella, like automatically. You don't even have to ask for it. It's just right in the law now. So they just have to tell you. And then Ben says, can you discuss the concept of open and obvious assertion on a slip and fall claim in a single family home? Yeah, so open and obvious basically just means that the condition is so open and so obvious that you should have seen it and you shouldn't have fallen. Like, for example, I had this one case where a guy was walking on a sidewalk. And, sometimes you have those sidewalk flags, like those squares, and one square is a little bit higher than another square. But, at night when it's dark and there's no lighting, you wouldn't see that. So your foot could trip. And they're, obviously they're concrete squares, concrete slabs. They're called sidewalk flags. So obviously one of those, raised flags, you could trip over it, you could fall, you could break your arm or whatever. So those are pretty good cases. But I had one where it was like a tree, and then the thing was up so high. It was up like, I don't know, like it must have been up like this much, how can you not see that? And it was like broad daylight. It was like summer and it was like 2 p.m. and the guy fell over it. So they were saying, well, how could you not see that? I mean, you're walking forward, it's right in front of you. So it's open and obvious. So that's a defense to liability, meaning that the jury could then say, okay, the city or the landlord should have fixed the broken slab or whatever. But what about you? How do you not see that? Just don't walk there, So that's open and obvious. But there are ways to defend against that. There are ways to defend against that. Okay, Leonardo says, after the case is certified for trial, can a defendant say the case is not ready and delay the case? No, usually not, because once it's certified for trial, then it's on the trial calendar. The judges aren't really going to allow you to delay it anymore. And then Ben says, does the law change depending on the size of the home? No, the law doesn't really change. I mean, if it's a single family home, I don't know, depending on what the condition was. If they're saying it's open and obvious, I don't know what the condition was, but it's just a factual question, right? Was it open and obvious? Meaning, was it like so obvious that anybody should have seen it and it wasn't dangerous? Really, it's just like a common sense thing. Was it safe? Was it dangerous? You don't have to be a lawyer for that. Like, see, a lot of people, what they really harp on is all the legal stuff. Like, I get people send me emails and like, will you take my case? It's open and obvious, and there's the statute of frauds, and they start saying all these legal concepts. But what is that? Like, I'm the lawyer. Don't worry about the legal concepts. Just tell me what happened. Like, what happened? Like, imagine I'm watching a movie, right? I'm in a movie theater. I'm eating my popcorn. Like, what happened? Once I know what happened, I could tell you the answer. But people start telling me the legal stuff, like open and obvious, statute of frauds, the statute of limitations. And it's just like a bunch of baloney. I can't tell you anything based on that. I'm not saying you, I'm just saying in general, that's what people sometimes do. It's kind of funny. Kind of like if I went to a doctor and I wouldn't say what's hurting me, but I would say my left ventricular function is deficient. The doctor would be like, what are you talking about? And then he says, have you heard of this attorney? And he gives it, well, yeah, I mean, if you want me to, I'm happy to talk about that, but that's more of like a private conversation. I don't want to mention any attorneys, publicly. But yeah, if you wanted me to give you a consultation, just text me 347-566-9595. I'm happy to chat. It's free and it's confidential. Okay, Nature Boy says, hi, Arkady, day one fan. My question is, the owner of who I'm suing has died, and I guess his family member has taken over his estate. How much longer will it take to go to trial or settlement? Case has been on for 5 years. Trip and fall in Brooklyn, fusion, and a knee surgery. Oh, that's pretty serious. I mean, when the owner dies, what you want to do is you just want to have someone else be appointed as administrator of the estate. So that's usually something where the Supreme Court has jurisdiction as well as the surrogates court. That's like, but sometimes the surrogates court is slow, and now there are a lot of delays. So I couldn't tell you exactly how long, but I would try to speed through it. If the person just died, I believe there's case law that that you have concurrent jurisdiction, but you have to act quickly. Like, your attorney has to file it in the Supreme Court. Now, if the Supreme Court refuses to act, or if you delay, if you don't do it right away, the Supreme Court judge could say you waited too long, so now go to the surrogates court. The surrogates court is like, in Brooklyn, I don't think it's too bad, but in some places it is very, very slow. Like in the Bronx, I think it's also slow. Bronx is just slow. I don't know what's going on in the Bronx, but surrogate's court is just a little bit slow, unfortunately. And so you need somebody to get appointed. Like it could be the insurance company could get appointed. It could be the relatives, like the same as if they left a will, right? They would say, okay, this person died. This person, like Joe Smith, owned a house. Joe Smith is now dead. So then he left it to Johnny Smith, his son. So you just sue the administrator and then it just continues. So it's fairly straightforward. We sometimes get a surrogate's attorney, meaning an estate's wills, like one of those lawyers to just handle it because sometimes it gets so technical and they're so nitpicky. Like if you forget to, like, I don't know, dot an I somewhere, they're like, you didn't serve a petition in some region of China where their third cousin might have lived, and you have to get a newspaper and publish it in this Shenzhen region of China because that's where they lived in 1968. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to China and publish a newspaper. I'm serious. That's the kind of stuff that they tell you to do in surrogate's court. So like everybody who's a potential relative might get notified. So you have to really get that lawyer, like an estate's lawyer, because I mean sometimes it's easy. It just depends. It goes case by case. Okay, let's see, what other questions do we have? Bad Boy says, is there compaction with a ACDF surgery? Compaction. I'm not sure what compaction is. Compaction. ACDF surgery is the anterior, meaning they come in through the front, like through the front, anterior, cervical, meaning the neck, discectomy, they remove the disc, and fusion, meaning they fuse. So they fuse, like this is what it looks like. This is actually the lower back. I'll show you. This is the lower back, but the neck is the same. It's just smaller. So what they're doing is they remove this. This is the disc. They remove it. Once they remove it, they put in like an allograft, which is from your hip and cancellous tissue. So it's kind of like an artificial disc in here. And then they have this burr drill, like it spins like a burr. And they shave this bone to get it to bleed because that's more likely to heal with the implant. And they want this all to bridge or to fuse. So this is gone. And then this just has to, fuse together. So you have bone fusing with bone. So you lose mobility. You can't, bend because now it's all fused. But that's what an ACDF is. That's why it's so serious. That's why I think it's, worth so much. Oh, he's saying complications. Yeah, there are complications. Well, one of the major complications is that you can get adjacent segment disease. So in the same example, like if say it happened here and you get the fusion here, now this vertebrae is fused with this vertebrae, right? But this could be all fine and healthy. But now because you had this fused, the one on top, the adjacent segment gets injured. Now you need a fusion here, or the one below, right? That's adjacent segment disease. That's a medically known thing that happens. Another thing is you just get non-union, like it doesn't unify. Now you have to go back in and do another surgery. Yeah, there's a lot of complications with that. It's a serious surgery. Okay. And then Jeff says, Stowers demands are done in Texas. Oh, okay. So Stowers, yeah. So it's a type of demand. So basically I'm guessing it's a settlement demand, right? It's a demand to try to settle the case, resolve the case for money. Like that basically is what they call in New York, they call it a demand package. You get everything, right? All the medical records, whatever you want to submit, you submit everything to the insurance company. Then you call the adjuster and you say, hey, let's settle this for X. And then they say, how about Y? And then you try to come to a middle ground. Yeah, that's a typical thing that they do. And then Ben says, is a discectomy the same as a striker decompressor? Yeah, well, a striker decompressor is usually when you do a percutaneous discectomy. So that means that it's more of like a smaller incision and the striker decompressor goes in and it spins and it'll, suck the herniation out. It'll decompress the disc. So in the same example, if this is the herniation, the red part, it'll go in here and it spins and it acts almost like a straw. Imagine like a straw. It suctions out the material because you want the disc to be like this, like on top. You see the white disc right here? That's a healthy disc, like meaning this is a healthy disc right here. It doesn't have anything. The red part is what you don't want, right? It's like a jelly donut. If you squish a jelly donut, the jelly plops outside the donut. You don't want that. So that's the red part. So when you decompress it with the striker decompressor, it removes the disc material that's extra, and then this will go back in, and it'll be a perfect circle the way you want it to be. So that's yeah, that's usually. Then there could be a full-blown discectomy. That's just more invasive than a striker decompressor, which is a percutaneous. But they're both, they're both serious. I would say I've settled percutaneous discectomies for like 550,000. I mean, sometimes 300. But if you do a full-blown, probably it's worth even more. Could be, full-blown could be closer to 1 million or even over 1 million. And then Nature Boy Channel says, we just received the estate documents. We are going to be in the process of getting the executor assigned as the new defendant. This is the last text from the paralegal. Okay, so that's good. If you got the documents already, yeah, get them assigned. It'll probably take you a few months, and then once you get that all fixed, you get it back on the trial calendar. I'm going through the same thing for a case in Staten Island, and it's like, yeah, it's such a pain. I don't know. They really should fix it because it just takes so long. And it's really silly because, like, how are you supposed to know, right? He's a defendant, or just a person, right? A landlord owns a building, has no like connection with you. You're just an injury victim. Why do you have to have your case delayed for years and years because they happen to die? And how are you supposed to take care of their estate? You don't even know who they are. Really, the burden should be on the defendant, right? Because it's their family, they're the defendant, they're being sued, they're represented by counsel, they have insurance. Give them like 60 days, go take care of your affairs, appoint an administrator, executor, whatever, and just that's it. But no, they make you do it. But how can you do it? Like, how do I know? Like my case was some guy who owned like a 99-cent store in Staten Island. How am I supposed to know who his family was? And we did the investigation. We actually found his son, and his son was talking to us, and he was like helpful. But then all of a sudden, his son figured out that we're not like, he thought we were like his lawyers, but then he figured we have to tell him the truth. Then he figured out, wait a minute, you guys are the people suing my father because somebody fell in his 99-cent store. And then he's like, well, I'm not going to talk to you. Well, of course not, right? Because we're suing you. We're helping the injury guy, our client. So then, he's not going to talk to us, but we still have the burden to like set up an estate for him. It's just like mind blowing. I don't know who came up with this, or what legislature, what councilman came up with this law. Was he like high on crack when he came up with this law? What kind of a law is this? It's like it's funny. Okay, so let's see what other questions we have. Ben says the UIM carrier is sending me for another IME. Is the case nearing the end? Yeah, I mean, if you're going for an IME, that's usually like towards the end of the case, I would say. Yeah, absolutely. Usually, you do the IME, put it on the trial calendar, and that's usually when they start settling. And then Leonardo says, when is it adequate to ask the judge to expedite the trial? To expedite the trial date, I mean, usually it's like if you're over 70, or if you have some kind of, sometimes you can do it in the interest of justice. Like in our last trial in the Bronx, we actually did it and it was granted. But I think just because the other side didn't oppose it, maybe they fell asleep. We didn't really have a great reason. Our reason was that our client was just like not, didn't have enough money, and he was just like living paycheck to paycheck. And he actually couldn't work, so he didn't have any paychecks. He was living off of a little bit of, I don't even know. He was basically didn't have any money, and he could have lost his apartment, could have become homeless. So we said, look, in the interest of justice, he needs a trial date because he's so hurt he can't work. And they gave it to us. But usually it's like there are a few criteria. It's in the CPLR. One of them I know is if you're over 70, but the other one is just in the interest of justice. So I guess in the interest of justice, you could make an argument about if there's some kind of reason. It's up to the judge. And then Bagged says, what would be an alternative way to go if I don't get the ACDF surgery? What do you recommend I could ask for? Yeah, so if you don't get the surgery, you still need the surgery. So you could say, look, I have the medical necessity for the surgery. I'm not going to do it, but I need it. So you could still ask for a lot, ask for 1 million or more, and see how much, if there's 1 million, see how much excess or umbrella there is beyond that. So you know the total amount. And then you can still ask for it, because just because you're not going to do it now doesn't mean you're never going to need it, right? And remember, you only get to go to court once, and it's for your entire life. So if you need it when you're 70, right, you don't get to come back and say, oh, now I'm 70, I need a fusion. Can I have another million? Right? It doesn't work that way. So then ask now, say that, look, I want to know now, and I want to know for the rest of my life. So, for example, if you're 30, look at the pattern jury instructions, or your attorney should really do it. And people live to be like 83, 84 on average. So then you have like 54 more years. So 54 more years of pain and suffering into the future, considering that you need this fusion, that could be a lot of money. That could be millions, So that's the way I would approach it. And then Nature Boy says, okay, thank you so much for the advice. You're a super lawyer. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Good luck to you. And Air Congo says, hey, attorney, can expedite the case at trial de novo. Trial de novo. Yeah, that might be in another state. We don't have that here in New York, but I think that trial de novo is something that they have in other states. I've heard that term. And then Armin says, thank you for your knowledge and time. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for watching us. Yeah, we really appreciate it. Okay, so I guess I'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for being here. We're almost at the hour mark again. Wow, time flies. I did a few other videos about various topics, so I'll start posting those, and I'll probably do some more videos, next week, some more topics. If you guys want to see any topic videos, just let me know. I have access now to a lot more databases, right? So there's LexisNexis, there's Westlaw, there's the Jury Verdict Reporter. So what I want to do is I want to do a little more research. I just have to find time because I've been busy. I'm preparing for a trial myself. I have a trial in April, so I'm preparing for some trials. But what you want to do is like really review these jury verdict reporters, these databases, and then you could do videos about various types of cases like car crashes with, let's say, lumbar fusions or cervical fusions, what they're worth, what people have gotten, and examine some of the claims and defenses, because some of these are very in-depth. They give you a lot of information. So watch out for those videos. Those should be interesting coming up in the next few weeks. And then Bad Boy says, I would like to jump on a call with you. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just text me, 347-566-9595. I'm happy to schedule a call. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching us. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Let us know what questions you have. We are here for you. Our goal is helping serious injury victims and families. And have a good night. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.